We were so close to finding peace between the wheel sizes. 27.5 and 29 had agreed to live and let live. But then, Loic Bruni won a downhill World Cup on a 27.5-inch rear wheel and a 29-inch front. And suddenly, things became a little more non-binary. So, with a trail-oriented approach to this brand new debate, we stepped into the bike shop to see if there's something to this 79er thing, or if it'll fade like every other time we've tried mixing wheel sizes.
As mountain bikers, I guess we're kind of like prone to just mess with stuff.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons you were kind of hesitant at first.
Yeah, like, I mean, part of me is like, okay, so people engineer these bikes to work a certain way, and they've designed them like this, and so why, like, do we think we're smarter than them? Like, part of, you know, I do like to tinker with stuff and mess around, but there's something about it where it just feels wrong and kooky and weird, and I'm like, let's just not even mess with that. But it actually turns out that I think that this switch made the Scout a better bike.
We should say, full disclosure, both of us are 29-inch fans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rare situation that I would prefer a 27.5-inch bike over a 29.
Yeah, so it's like you put one 29-inch wheel on there, does it make it halfway better, or does it make it all the way better, right? And that's kind of the experiment.
Well, it comes down to where are the advantages of a 27.5-inch grader, front or rear, and where are the disadvantages of a 29-inch grader, front and rear.
Yeah, where do each wheel size perform better? You know, like where are the least amount of kind of negatives?
Yeah. So like where we kind of decided it's more than halfway towards the benefits of a 29-inch is because the benefits of a 29-inch are greater in the front, and the benefits of a 27.5, I think, are greater in the rear.
Yeah.
You get that you have a little shorter chainstay, you don't have the issue with butt buzz of getting way over the back wheel.
And super steep stuff.
Yeah. But then on the front, I mean, you get the bump sensitivity and
you get the rollover of the larger wheel, like not dropping into potholes and stuff like that. So it's skipping over more things.
So let's get into exactly what we did here.
Yes.
So we took the Transition Scout. The reason that we picked this bike is because out of the box, it is what we call a reverse mullet bike, where it's party in the front, business in the back, more travel up front and a little less, and specifically 20 millimeters more. There's a ton of bikes that are 10 millimeters more up front.
That's very common.
Yeah, and I don't think that's enough to try this concept with. And also, I wouldn't say try it on your 29-inch bike by putting the 27.5 in the rear. Like,
yeah, totally.
Like it's just because you're losing the benefit of the short chainstays. There's no way to correct for the geometry. I mean, it's an easier way to do it because you're not getting a new fork, but it's totally antithetical to the concept.
Yeah, and so at that point, when you're narrowing it down that much, like you're really only looking at a few bikes on the market that can do it, that are 27.5 bikes with 20 millimeters longer forks spec'd.
Yeah. So the Scout comes stock with Fox 36, and we tested the 29-inch version with the Marzocchi. It's the same chassis. They're both 36 mil stanchion, but there's just not a 130 mil travel 36 without really getting in there and getting custom. So this same damper, same chassis, so same axle to crown. So that's why we've got Marzocchi with one setup and a Fox with the other, but it's effectively the same fork.
Yeah.
And we also used same front tire, same inner width rim. So we kept everything as standard as we could between the two. So the stock 150 millimeter 27.5-inch fork on the Transition Scout has an axle to crown measurement that's almost identical to that of 130 millimeter 29-inch fork. And the only geometry difference you're going to get, the resting geometry difference, is going to be in the wheel radius, how high the axle is going to be off the ground, which we found is like 12 or 13 millimeters.
And so, the way that this works, and the reason that it only works for like these extra reverse mullet bikes, is that you kind of want to avoid having less front travel than rear travel. And so when you subtract 20 millimeters from the fork, then you're with the Scout, you have a 130 bike now. So this actually makes sense. You have an even travel bike, and you get those advantages of the 29-inch wheel up front. So why don't we talk about what we felt?
Yeah. So something that I've been trying to do more and more in recent years is leaning over the front wheel to get more traction up there and to trust corners a little bit better. And I'll admit it's taking me a few years to get there. Like,
yeah, it's hard to inch forward. It seems like wrong, right?
Yeah.
It feels like you're gonna get pushed over the bars, but the geometry of modern bikes is forcing us to make this happen.
So this got us thinking about something that we've really never thought about before, which is bottom-out geometry.
Right.
And when you're deep into that travel, which you are going to be in crucial situations when you are over the front end, you're 20 millimeters higher. So that feeling we're talking about that you might overdo it or go over the front end is just kind of not really there.
It's reduced, and then that's compounded by the larger wheel diameter and its ability to roll over more things without diving into them and getting caught up. So, you know, the test track that I was riding on has like a continuous rock section that's kind of like slick rock, but super pitted. And with a 29-inch wheel, I was skipping over that stuff, going way faster. It was smoother, even with 20 millimeters less fork travel. And with the 27.5, I just felt that wheel ducking in. I had a 150 fork, so you'd think you could make that up, but actually, you know, what is happening is the 29-inch wheel is better than having 20 millimeters more travel.
Especially because, back to where the advantages and disadvantages are, you have less of the perceived disadvantage of maneuverability that the 29-inch brings, because the rest of the bike is still nice and tight, but up front,
you're changing the geometry of the bike less throughout the stroke of the fork. You have less travel, so you're changing that less. And this is something that we don't talk about a lot, is when you're riding these reverse mullet bikes, the greater fork travel is changing the geometry of the bike throughout the travel more than something that's evenly matched. As if you're riding a bike that's balanced, you're like potentially, you know, going through the travel relatively equally, and so the geometry of the bike isn't getting affected too much. And so I feel like there's a lot of people, you know, it's pretty popular to like chop around a bike, right? You're like, I'm just gonna chopper it out, bro. Like, I'm gonna stick a way longer fork than what it's designed. And that stuff that, you know, like, it works for some people. It obviously affects a ton. It affects the geometry a ton. But I feel like this is kind of a better way geometrically of skinning the same cat. You're getting way more capability without really affecting the geometry, and also without like affecting the geometry throughout the stroke of the travel.
So this then leads us to the question of, why not just get a 29-inch bike? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
totally.
especially a question that you and I would bring up, because we're like, both of our main bikes are 29-inch. Like, it's just our go-to. So to answer my own question, what I found in this bike with the 29 front setup was I felt way more comfortable whipping rear end around. And that's something that a smaller rear wheel, I think, helps with, because you don't get that kind of...
The wheel isn't flexing as much. It's not skipping in the corner or during the drift. It's not trying to hook up as much. It actually can smoothly, controllably drift.
And that's compounded by the fact that I am more over the front end, so the rear end is a little bit lighter. So it's just this like really nice, light, darty feel.
One of the other things is, you know, nowadays we're talking more about like wheel compliance and stuff like that. And you naturally do want to have a stiffer rear wheel than a front wheel. You want to have more vertical compliance in your front wheel to track and like keep traction around corners and stuff. Whereas you do need the rear wheel to be stiffer. And like this setup actually naturally does that without you having to buy like, you know, those Crank Brothers wheels, the Synthesis, which are designed around that. The sizing actually naturally does that. And not only that, but you get like, you know, technically, if you're looking at the same exact componentry, a 27.5 wheel is lighter. So you get like the advantages of acceleration and stuff like that. So it does kind of feel more lively. And on descents, I didn't feel like the smaller rear wheel was getting like caught up. It was kind of just like following along for the ride, you know?
And then, the shorter rear end, I found myself more comfortable being able to manual. I mean, I'm not always going to be in that mood, and I'm not always going to be on trails that's better for. But when I am, I would much rather have the benefits of the 29-inch front.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like the 27.5 wheel size as a whole is supposed to be this Goldilocks thing, right? It's like, we're going to fix the problems of 26 and 29 and put it into this one package. And this is almost like what that is. You're like fixing kind of 27.5 and 29 at the same time. You're getting the best of both worlds without the negative attributes of each in many ways.
If this catches on, I mean, like, do you picture there being bikes out of the box like this? Like,
I mean, I know that like it's very tiresome on the consumer front and on the bike shop front, like with new stuff coming out all the time and just like new standards and everything. It's confusing and stuff. But what's kind of cool about this is that there are no new standards involved. You're just kind of mixing and matching. And you know, for companies who are doing assembly in the States to order or whatever, kind of like how Intense does and Transition does, and I think that it's easier for them to accommodate such a thing. They can just like add it onto their website options and be like, you know, I want to upgrade to a push shock, and I want to upgrade to, or you know, I want to do a 79er. So yeah, I think it could be implemented.
This did not go as planned. Ryan Palmer is usually the old man on Bike Mag's front porch, angrily shaking his fist at passing trends. But mixing wheel sizes might not be a passing trend. Hopefully we'll keep seeing brands, pros, and lay people experimenting with it, and soon we'll have something entirely new to disagree about.